Welcome to Running It Back, the Lessons Learned from Sports podcast. Mike Palmer here, joined again by the lovely, the talented Tarlin Ray.
Never been called lovely before. First time for everything.
And you're singing. This is the premium content strategy. It's all coming together. How you doing, Tarlin?
This is the most abrupt
Yeah.
end to our pregame. I mean, we 12 minutes in, I made a statement and he said, speaking of that, and you just hit record.
Yeah. Speaking of segues.
Guess you have something to do. How am I doing? A lot of stories I could regale you with. My lovely trip. Felt very fortunate in the middle of a busy time, school and work, to be able to take a trip to Barbados,
Yes.
where I could tell you the story of traveling back and forth for 58 hours and only being on ground for 54.
Right.
The one story I will tell you is most probably didn't even register Tropical Storm Tammy because it really didn't come in hot into Florida or East Coast.
Yeah.
But when you're in New York and your pilot steps out of what do they call it? I wanted to call it their cabin.
It's the
But
cockpit. It's the cockpit.
The cockpit. Now I'm thinking about airplane. I'm thinking about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar,
Oh
just
my
like
God.
sharing my inside thoughts.
Yeah.
And he stands there and says, listen, we all know about Tropical Storm Tammy. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take off and we're going to do the best we can.
Oh my God. This is before
But-
takeoff.
But if we can't get there, we're going to go somewhere else.
I guess it makes sense though, because if you're landing on an island and there's a tropical storm out there.
Does that make you feel comfortable?
No.
I got one more from the plane.
Yeah.
Then 2 hours in, the plane drops 10, 15 feet, shimmering, pops back up.
Yeah.
20 minutes later, same pilot from not the cabin, the cockpit. That's a
Yeah.
tribute.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it was Cream. Said that was cloud debris.
Cloud
Really hard.
debris.
Yep. Really hard to see. So we're going to do what we can to avoid it. But that's not the story I want to talk about today.
Yeah.
For those who have been longtime listeners might know that I'm a little competitive.
Hmm.
My colleague created an asinine challenge. Can I say asinine?
I mean, my son's too young to even know what he can't say. Yeah. He's getting there though. It's fine.
Matthew Earmuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Where she is one of those colleagues during the day who, while you're in a meeting, is on one of those treadmills under a desk.
Sure.
As annoying as it could possibly be.
Yeah.
But
Well,
she calls.
because you're competitive about how much
No. But
how much
watching
workout.
someone bopping up and no. I'll tell you
they're
why.
becoming more fit than you.
No, I don't
you
care
can
about that. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
So then she creates this like over 70-day challenge because she wants to get in better shape
Right.
and talks all of us into we need to walk 10,000 steps
A day.
a day. If you miss the 10,000 step mark,
Because 10,000 steps, over like a couple months, I do
Yeah,
that
it's
on the
nothing.
regular.
Yeah. 10,000 steps a day. If you miss that daily, you owe $10 in the kitty. Whoever has the most steps at the end can do what they want with the money. Give to
Nice.
charity.
Yeah.
She was like, you're in. And a couple things I didn't factor in. One, I have a bunch of millennials in this challenge who doing marathons and things
Yeah.
like that. So on a day where someone in the challenge ran a 3:48 marathon, averaged 8 minutes and 38 seconds, she had 54,000 steps. Just
That's
one day.
a lot of steps.
The other two I didn't factor in is the treadmill.
Right.
She's on a treadmill
Yeah.
walking during the day.
Hmm.
And so the last 2 days, she's posted 33,000 steps each day.
Yeah.
And three, how it would completely change my workout regimen. I haven't been on a Peloton since this.
Yeah.
So at 4:45 in the morning, I walk 5 miles.
Okay.
I've listened to 4 books. I'm listening to Steve Kerr's book right now. It's actually really good.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
5 miles. So that I locked it in. So by 7 a.m. Pacific, I've already got my 10,000 steps.
Okay.
Then
Yeah.
I've ranged between a 1.8 mile to 2.6 mile walk for dog Chia. We talked about Chia. Chia's getting a lot of love today.
Yeah.
And then whatever else happens, it's gravy.
Right.
That's all I got.
But you have a high floor because you build that floor into your
So I'm
Looks like
now
you're working.
averaging 19,000 steps a
Nice.
day.
Nice.
As of yesterday, I'm tied with the treadmill. Effectively, I'm 500 steps ahead. And the marathoner is 20,000 steps ahead.
Right.
She claims she needs to recover from, running
Sure. Oh my God. Nail
20,
biter.
20,
I
26.2 miles.
wonder if they're
So,
gonna win.
so, so we're going all the way to December. And
Okay.
so I just want to bring that in. But the part of the reason, one question I have is, and we'll get to our topic today, is it's quantified self. You're posting at the post
Yeah.
your step count the next day, a picture of it.
Sure.
My colleague created this rule because I'm on the West Coast. She didn't want people to post their step count on the East Coast and go to bed and then have me walk more
Right.
to beat them.
Right.
But is there any way to cheat?
Yes.
Can I put my Apple Watch on my dog?
Yeah. I was thinking, it's 2023, almost 2024. General Dynamics has been doing amazing work with robots. So I think you just buy a robot and a treadmill and you just put your phone there. You can be charging there and just let the robot run overnight. You can be making up miles while you sleep.
So we want, please, we're looking for, are there any ways to trick your phone into believing altimeter, into believing that you're walking more, your Apple Watch,
It's a step meter, right?
your Whoop,
Right.
your Fitbit? I'm all ears because actually, for someone who broke both fifth metatarsals
Right.
and feel good off the Achilles, my feet are a little sore.
Right. I got to say, like, I have kind of Achilles PTSD by proxy, just by virtue of talking to you. Whenever I see I think it's also just all of us have become more attuned to how just devastating that type of an injury is, especially the whole non-contact thing where like it's just like pop. But
Oh,
it's
well,
like,
when Aaron Rodgers stepped back and Kirk Cousins stepped back, I was on various chats saying, Achilles, Achilles.
there's even discussion about whether folks are misdiagnosed or people are being diagnosed with Achilles tears when in fact it might not have been noticed before. And like then they come back with this heroic recovery. But what do you think about Rogers' recovery?
I don't want to talk about that, dude.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the topic we agreed to? He's standing on the sideline throwing a football. What recovery?
But
Can we not
he was up pretty fast. I'm just saying, like, people are coming back.
really up pretty fast? How many people that have an Achilles surgery have you seen stand up? And now we're tracking. I'm not giving him any credit. I'm giving him zero credit. I was standing on my toes, walking down a hallway within 6 weeks.
Right.
Congratulations. I'm not giving you nothing. Nothing. All right. The topic, that's the
Yeah.
reason I talked about cheating.
Yes.
You got it.
No, you got it. You were flowing.
Was what's going on with Michigan.
Right.
And I love to get your reaction to this major scandal in college football.
Yeah.
And can we run it back to any major cheating scandals in our past over the last decade
Right.
or two?
Yeah. Well, it's football, right? And it's spying in football. There's no spying in football. Oh, wait, no, I got that wrong. It's crying in baseball. But you got to go to Belichick, right? You got to go to Belichick and Spygate, right? And then the other
So
one, as a New Yorker, I got to throw in there is Bobby Valentine in a mustache in the dugout after he's been thrown out of the game. But that's just
that's
because I'm a Mets fan and I'm
that,
looking for references.
once again, listen, we got to the Mets season. I'm
Yeah.
sorry for your
No,
loss.
I mean, spring training's right around the corner.
Now we're in the next season. I'll just
Yeah.
say it right now. I'm sorry for your loss.
Hey, we're looking like
What
maybe
you're
second
looking like you
round.
still have Julius Randle still on your team.
Maybe second round. That's
Maybe you're gonna
and then
still
the floor is maybe we just missed the playoffs. It's really
maybe you
exciting.
just hope
Exciting.
for Embiid to come. That's all you can
That would
really
be
hope
nice.
for.
Yeah. Come home, Joel. Come home.
You talk about Spygate, 2007,
Mm.
right? 2007, 2008 season, Belichick taping the opposing team's sideline, where it's okay to videotape the team. It's just not from certain locations.
Right.
So Belichick had been doing it since 2000.
Mhm.
They actually sent out a memo in 2006 clarifying we are not allowed to tape.
Yeah.
Pat still did it. And it's interesting, the person who basically rang the bell or snitched, snitches get stitches. The person who snitched on Belichick was one Eric Mangini, who was the coach of the Jets,
The man genius coach of the Jets.
who used to be a Pat staffer
Yeah.
and now felt aggrieved because it was their sideline that
Right.
was being taped.
He's a whistleblower.
Oh, sorry, he's a whistleblower.
He's a hero. Catching that corrupt. I mean, like, to act as though Bill Belichick is not looking for every angle at every moment in his talk about competitive. I wouldn't want to compete with Bill Belichick in your contest there. Although he's getting up there. So I think you'd probably have a shot. And he's got a lot of NFL responsibilities. But yeah, and then Jim Harbaugh, at Michigan, who is really at the center of this scandal, although they're trying to kind of offload it. Similar to even, in Buffalo, looking at Sean McDermott firing his offensive coordinator, like scapegoating with your staff is a long and storied approach to dealing with sanctions in football. But Harbaugh, who is now pulling the Belichick here, where everybody's looking for an edge, and he is kind of the mastermind behind the program there. He's out there. Have you watched any of his press conferences?
No, I haven't. Before we get there, because we have somewhat douchebag on douchebag, Belichick and Harbaugh. They flow from the same, are part of the same cloth. So, yeah, lower level staff doing some filming. You get caught, Belichick, $500,000 fine, the largest fine in NFL history.
Yeah.
Pats ding 250,000, and then the next 2 years, Pats lose their draft picks.
Right.
So, is it worth it?
I mean, it's usually not worth it if you're caught and sanctioned, but the sanctioning, I mean, they did fine. There was plenty of upside for the organization on the other side of 2000.
And before that. So,
Right.
Belichick's standpoint, Kraft, the owner, hey man, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Pats, what they almost called mini Spygate 2, they had a staffer up in the Bengals in their press box, just doing some early sort of walkthrough and was caught filming the sideline. And he was like, oh, just trying to get shots of the field. And security guy was like, that's not the field. And so still trying. So is the line, if you ain't cheating, you're not trying.
Right.
So from Belichick's perspective, you give him a hard pass. You don't care, whatever, it's worth it.
I mean, I feel like character is character, and folks demonstrate their character and how they compete. It's a very competitive league. Everyone's looking for an edge. To me, it does bring me to the steroid era as well, where there are elements of the ways in which people cheat. The fact that the NFL had to document the bylaws so rigorously is a sign that everybody's doing stuff like this all the time. Everyone's looking for an edge. I think it's not too big a deal.
All right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You mentioned the steroid era. More of that heat fell on the players. And granted, there are a lot of players, they might have been in the Mitchell report, but not a lot happened. What's happened is players who should absolutely be in the Hall of Fame are not in the Hall of Fame. Give me a break. Barry Bonds is a stud. Just put him in the Hall of Fame. But the organizations themselves, that was more player. The organizations themselves took none of the heat.
Right.
And I gotta believe, and I had a chance to talk to baseball players, that stuff is just openly happening.
Right.
You have trainers and others making sure that you're on the right regimen. It's not happening solo.
Right.
So,
Well, that was my point. There were folks who were supplying the PEDs back in the day who lost their jobs, and that industry did get clamped down significantly, even if it is now incorporated in new ways. Like the main impact to the anti-steroids era in MLB, which followed the steroids era when they were all breaking records, is that the kind of black market undercover steroid provisioning engine was regulated. And that's similar to what you're seeing with the way the NFL has regulated hit stuff. And I would imagine the Michigan scandal is going to make sidelines of college football games more regulated. The fact that the guy was like undercover
at Central Michigan.
Yeah.
But hold on, let's get to Connor Stalions. This guy, before we get there, Houston Astros, 2017,
Yes.
won their first World Series, and as Doyer fans,
Yeah.
still massively pissed off
Yeah.
at the sign stealing scandal, where they had a video camera in the outfield focused on the catcher and stealing signals. And in order to pass signals onto the batters,
Via, like, isn't there like trash cans that are being
banging trash cans.
that's the part that makes that story interesting to me is like there has not been a randomized controlled trial of you just have people banging on trash cans down
Where's the
there
RCT?
with no reason, but just maybe hearing trash cans somehow stimulates good hitting. I don't know. I'm
So,
speculating.
first World Series in their history, beat the Dodgers. Was it worth it? There are a few guys that got nicked for it. Leno, the GM,
Right.
Hinch, the coach, Cora, who
Yeah.
was
Carlos Beltran is
Carlos
still
Brancha was the only player named in it. He was the Mets coach, and then he
he's
went away.
still not the Mets manager because of this. This is all part of this timeline, this cursed timeline that we're on. If they just let it go, Beltran would have been manager back when Callaway was manager.
And there's one, it's the intern, Derek Figoa, who later became the senior manager, who started this whole thing by giving the GM access to something he called the code breaker,
Mm.
which enabled them to see the sign. So was it worth it? Houston, they won again in 2022. We all see them as cheaters. The next year in spring training, in the first 5 spring training games, 7 Houston Astros were plunked because of the
Yeah.
sign, the cheating, and Dusty Baker had to cry to the MLB to say, "Can you please stop hitting my players?" So
Right.
was it worth it? Belichick, slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
Astros as the franchise, 2 World Series, and they've been pretty prominent over the last since 2017. They've been in the hunt. So
Right.
was it?
I think it probably is worth it if you think about it from the perspective of it's easy to be motivated. It's easy to motivate your team when you got the nobody believes in us, everyone's out to get us. You got a built-in motivator right there. And then you also, assuming you can comfortably play the heel, and the heel in this case is, similar to our politics, perhaps. The heel in this case is saying that they're actually being persecuted and the problem is the system. It's not me. That lane has been getting wider and wider, and more people are opting in. And I'd say what Harbaugh is doing, what Belichick has done over the years, the cheater who then cries foul when they're accused of cheating, they can rally a squad. You get a little bit of a boost, assuming the personalities kind of gel together that way. And from a competitive advantage perspective, it helps. It looks like Michigan could win this year. And it's funny
All
that
right.
they're saying they're America's team.
Yeah.
That is a little ironic.
Let's go to the khaki. All
Yeah,
right, I'm gonna read off some things.
yeah.
2015, 42 to 13, 2016, 30, 27, 2017, 31, 20, 2018, 62, 39, 2019, 56, 27. That's 0-5 against the Ohio State.
Yeah.
2019, in that year, we had one. We've been waiting for this guy, Connor Stalions,
Yeah.
to join the Michigan staff.
Is that his real name?
That's just, and someone who diehard Wolverine, actually got into Michigan, but wanted to be the Michigan coach and thought the better path was him to go to the military because he'd charted and seen other coaches go that path. So he was on staff and then ultimately quickly started volunteering for Michigan and then got onto the staff. He had already created what he called his own Michigan manifesto.
Mm.
I don't know if he was reading up on the Unabomber bomber and other things.
He acted alone, though. We're saying
Yeah,
he acted alone.
100%. Well, he acted alone, and when the Fed got closer, when the Big Ten and NCAA got closer, Chris Partridge, assistant coach, linebackers coach, just happened to destroy computer evidence, but he was definitely acting alone.
Mhm.
And this got even better because Stallions was definitely acting alone. But when Uncle T, so good, Uncle T, the Michigan booster,
Yeah.
was paying for Stallions tickets to hand out to other people to videotape the sidelines of their the opposing teams in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
He definitely was not acting alone. So since Stallions joined the staff against Ohio State, 42-27, 45-23. Michigan Heroes, they have not won at all, including losing 51-45 last year in a shocking loss. So Michigan has recruited well. They last year, which was shocking, they had one of the best defenses ever, and TCU players were wide open, and it's amazing for Sonny Dykes to come out later when the scandal was cropping up to say, "Oh, we knew they had our sons." Part of the reason I knew is because I have friends in the coaching
Yeah.
ecosystem. So we had dummy signals,
Yeah.
and you could see how flustered Michigan was during the game.
Right. Right.
So, one, was Connor Stalions acting alone? Because how do you act alone if he's the head recruiter and you're getting signals? He's not holding on to that information himself. So
Sure.
it has to be passed on
Yeah.
to offensive
No, he's
coordinators.
a scapegoat. Ken
defense.
Dorsey in Buffalo is the same thing. Head coaches decapitate below to save their neck. Like that's what happens.
So how high does it go?
It certainly goes to Harbaugh, and then anyone who has Harbaugh, like apparently the AD and Harbaugh don't get along that great anyway. Like having Harbaugh is not necessarily a treat. So I imagine anyone who is managing a personality like Jim Harbaugh knows that things are not purely on the up and up in terms of following the rules around competitive practices. So I would say it probably goes to I imagine the whole athletic department knows what's going on here.
So is it unprecedented to have a coach in a single year, one, get suspended 3 games for recruiting violations during COVID,
Yeah.
2, get suspended another 3 games for illegally spying on play. Now, it's okay, by the way, to get film on other people's sidelines. You just can't do it in person.
Right.
Such a weird rule. So sign stealing has been around forever. Batters looking back to see what the catcher is going to do. You're constantly dudes in hoops sneakily standing in someone's huddle.
Right.
They're always trying to get advantage, but it's such a weird, so do you think the rule is bullshit?
I mean, it's like anything, like when you get into these shady areas of governance, you got to draw a line somewhere. And usually when people get caught for breaking one of those rules, they're probably breaking others as well. It's like a slippery slope. And then the flip side's also true, where if you're in a competitive universe and other folks are getting an advantage by doing something, pushing a line, but maybe staying within the boundaries, you're going to do it too, just so that they don't have an unfair advantage over you. So I feel like it's partly organizational dynamics when you're competing against other organizations bound by similar rules. You want to keep an eye on what other people are doing. And if someone has an advantage, you want to catch up as fast as possible. I get it. I mean, you and I, Tarlin, we're big Dan Fosbury fans. Like I'm a more believer in your competitive advantage is your differentiation, and your just when they think you're going to zig, you zag. And you got the deeks and the jukes, a little bit of head fakes here and there.
You're showing your age today.
It's all good, dude. But to me, I think the idea that crying a foul of someone, unless there is a genuine competitive advantage, it's the same thing with DeflateGate, which came later,
Oh, yeah.
which is the same thing where it's like, it's, kind of who cares how inflated your balls are, although you can make a lot of entertaining jokes about it, and then the fact that they're trying to rig it for themselves at home is something people have been doing for years, but many folks are able to adhere to the rules enough so that they don't get flagged. And then some people push it, especially in the NFL where flags are like so much a part of the game. Breaking the rules is like pretty foundational, especially football, but also basketball too. Like fouls are part of the game, so and technicals, ejections, Draymond. We didn't talk about that element. And then as fans, from a sports narrative perspective, from a motivation perspective, the idea that there are people you're rooting against, there are people you actually, for me as a Giants fan, the Cowboys were America's team. And that has built in me a deep hatred of the Cowboys. And I still kind of view them as America's team because I'm always going to root against them because they're called America's team. That's why it is a little Putin-esque. It's a little Trumpian for Harbaugh to then connect Michigan with America's team. But I think America's changed in that
America.
you'll get booked. The ratings for Michigan football will be going up because
Next
of
weekend's
this.
game, my wife's going to that game with her brother. Her brother's diehard Michigan fan. He doesn't
Yeah.
like when I text him cheater.
Hell to
I text him cheater.
the
He's not happy with that. That game is going to be over the top. Mention a couple of things.
and he may pull a Bobby Valentine, Harbaugh. He'll be there, with the fake mustache, not khakis. Keep an eye out. You heard it here first.
I think it'll be in the stand. Pushing the boundaries. We just saw it in an NFL game. All coaches you're supposed to report injuries. This may sting a little bit because it's hurt my fantasy team, but Burrow walked off the airplane with a splint on, did not report a wrist injury, and then he's out with a torn ligament, and they claimed it was off a tackle. And no, he had a pre-existing injury that did not.
When you were saying it's going to sting a little, I thought you meant because he's a fellow ginger, but that's a separate topic entirely.
I didn't realize he's a ginger.
All right. Yeah.
But pushing the boundaries not only in sports.
I mean, he's not like an Andy Dalton ginger, but we'll let him in. Yeah.
Ginger adjacent. You guys are just bring him in. It's one of your heroes. And he's like, I'm not a ginger.
Auburn. Is it Auburn hair? I don't know.
I don't look that close. Pushing the boundaries not only in sports. So let's talk about, you live in New York.
Yeah.
Uber is one of those companies that massively pushed the boundaries. They would not be in New York City. They crushed the taxi medallion in the taxi industry because they just flaunted against the rule. They did not mind if a taxi driver had to adhere to 19 different rules. They adhered to 2. One dude just got off the couch and started driving folks.
Yeah.
Airbnb.
Yeah.
Pushing the boundaries.
Although in New York, the boundaries are pushing back.
They're pushing back, but I'm saying to get going,
to
launch, to be massively successful, to be a brand that everyone knows,
to
go public. There are people that there are black and white, and there are people that play in the grays. And if you look across the board, there are a lot of stars that played in the grays for years until the authorities catch up. And then you have enough of groundswell of sport and lobbying enough money to fight back and pay a little bit of fine, $500,000 Bill Belichick. There's $328 million fine. Uber is paying off. Uber and Lyft combined. Can't go pay it.
Just build it into your calculus, Tarlin.
So is that the new venture deck? Hey, we know we're breaking this law, but we believe that we'll get enough critical mass. And by year 7, when they catch up to us, we'll just pay it off.
This brings me to Sam Altman, recently ousted from OpenAI. This is just in. You saw this, right?
Yep.
It's the same thing. It's like if you could say, if you aren't cheating, you aren't trying until there are repercussions. And the question is like the systemic rot, the cultural toxicity, at what point does it actually break so bad that it can't come back? Look at the Patriots now. They had an incredible run, but there's a point where you got to shake things up. You got to kind of bring in a new culture.
I celebrate the 2-8 right now.
It's the Patriot way, and I'm a believer that, at least in terms of your own narrative, you don't want to really embrace the gray. I don't think that's what you want to do as an individual. But at the same time, everybody's looking for an edge, and some folks are more blessed with some other advantages. So then, does bring you back to Rodman more within the context of the game. Draymond, same thing. Draymond? I don't know. I don't know why I pronounced it that way. Draymond. Yeah, man.
Draymond Green.
But like a chokehold, and unlike Rodman, I felt like Rodman would try to get into people's heads and was kind of playing a game within the game a little bit differently than Draymond. Draymond's actually just like thuggish tactics on the court, but he's kind of like Bill Laimbeer, there is that same element, at least in the history of the NBA, of players whose brand is, Danny Ainge was like that as a competitor. He's, arguably cleaned it up and is doing a nice job now as an executive, but talk to Tree Rollins, he might have another opinion. He bit Tree Rollins' ear.
The new Danny Ainge is Grayson Allen. So the takeaway I'm hearing from you is everyone's going to push the boundaries. It's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
It's whether or not you can live with yourself in the grays. I think a lot of folks, they want to do it the right way.
Yeah.
And karma's a bitch. So I am rooting for, I have a split allegiance family from Toledo and Mansfield. Wife went to Michigan, brother-in-law Michigan.
Mm.
It's a great school. I'm actually hoping that Khakis go down
Yeah.
because I like to have a level playing field. And the good thing is this is just a chat between you and I. So no one in my extended family will hear this.
Yes, of course.
Uh,
But just
and
this
for the
is
first
you and
first
me.
time ever in my life, go Buckeyes.
Excellent. All right. Well, that'll do. Thanks again for your time, Tarlin. It was a fantastic conversation about cheating, what's happening at Michigan University right now, and some lessons we might draw from that, connections to the history of sports. Final thoughts? Any parting comments? I know you're pulling for the Buckeyes. Anything else while I have you here?
I want everyone to have a great turkey day. 5K turkey trot with the family, but 5K is still not enough steps to get over 10,000. So still crowdsourcing ways
Yes.
that the robot's a little expensive, a little heady, like on the treadmill. So any other ways that you figure out how to manufacture steps without actually doing the steps, I'm in. This is after me saying I'm going to root for the non-cheater. I'm willing to break a few. I'm really, it's a long contest.
Yeah.
And I don't think I can average 19,000 steps
Mhm.
through the end of the year.
Right.
So pray for me.
Yeah. And, at the end of the day, Tarlin, like you said, we all have to live with ourselves. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We'll be back again soon. This is Running It Back.